Welcome, 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 BCG, Black Couples Getaway. We're excited to have you here in our wealth building webinar series. And one of the things that's so powerful is that we're talking about making a difference. And last week, we talked about financial psychology. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And tonight, we're talking about budgeting. And then next week, credit profile, loans and debts, risk management, retirement situation, investment in real estate. And we're going to close out with entrepreneurship. My name is Marlon Smith, and so happy to have you here. This has been a phenomenal series. And you can see right now, one of the things that I'm really excited about is the fact that we're all working together. And we received completed homework. The first person to send in their homework was JR and Lisa McKinney. So I want to give them a shout out because, again, you get out of life what you put into it. And so grateful. And they completed everything. I mean, 3 pages. It was phenomenal. And so, again, I want to encourage each and every one of you to get your workbook and go ahead and do the assignments, because that's where the magic is. But first of all, let's find out who's here. So go ahead and type in the chat box. Where are you watching from? Last week, we had a phenomenal group. It was so much energy, and want to definitely see who's in the house. So go ahead and type in the chat box, your city, your state, and we're going to keep this really rolling. So let's bring up Tony right now to talk about the topic of the day, which is none other than budgeting. Okay. Some people like call it, I know Tony has a whole different name for it. So Tony, how you doing, buddy?
I got several names for it. Some of them I can't say, Marlon.
Right.
I can't say, but a spending plan and all sorts of different things. And so, yeah, man, we are going to get into it tonight. We're going to talk about budgeting. We're going to talk about how to set up a spending plan. And you know what I really love about these, Marlon, is just people who are audience and watching. Many of them have great ideas, and so we just want to encourage everyone to put in the chat box any ideas that you have, and we're going to try to get to all of them, share them, because again, like you said, man, we each have great ideas. There's a lot of different things out there, a lot of different methods, a lot of things that work for different people, and so yeah, we're really excited. And I see we got Charlotte in the house, the Queen City, West Palm Beach, Florida, Fort Worth, Texas. They're coming in, Marlon, and we're ready to have a great time.
And we really are. I mean, I'd love to just hear, so like I said, last week was phenomenal, financial psychology. And so go ahead and type in the chat box, what did you learn last week? What was some of your, takeaway? What was something that you really enjoyed? We love to hear from you, because today we're building upon each episode. Each module builds upon the previous module. And so again, this is your session. This 55-minute session is going to go by like that. And so again, you get out of life what you put into it. So we love to hear from you. For those of you who've just joined us, type in your city, your state, where you're watching from, because we love to see where you are. And we're going to see which state has the greatest representation. But also, please let us know if you have any questions, anything that pops in your mind. You can go ahead and type in the chat box, that question, or you can type, as well as you can type, any feedback you have, anything that, rock and rolls with you. I saw, Shelton already said LOL, laugh out loud. So Tony, why is tonight important?
Well, I think tonight is important because it's again, one of those foundational things, having a plan. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And so having a plan in place is so important. And really, it's foundation. Everything goes back to the budget. Everything goes back to the spending plan. Everything goes back to knowing what you have and where it's going, where it's coming from, and where it's going to. I mean, Marlon, how many of us have had a lot of money come through our hands? I mean, there's people who have made 6 figures and $500,000 and so forth and so on. And a lot of money has just come through your hands, and you wake up, it's like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? And so that's why we also want to encourage everyone to track your expenses, track where you're spending your money, track it on paper. There's several apps out there that you can track it with. And so, yeah, make sure that you track your expenses, because the tracker gets what the tracker tracks, right? So we know that. We know if you're tracking it, you'll know where it's going. You'll be more careful. And, I love what you always talk about too. And some of it kind of bleeds into next week, but, cash versus credit. the difference that makes, when you're spending cash. And we'll talk about a little bit maybe later about the envelope system, where you put your cash in the envelopes for your spending for each week. And then when that is done, then you know that that's all been spent. And so those type of things. Marlon, me personally, I never grew up knowing that there was a budget that existed in my household.
Okay.
Now, we had everything we needed, right? And all of that. But there was never anyone that sat down and said, hey, you need a budget, right? And I'll be frank, man, I was an accounting major. I took 3 years of accounting in high school, 4-year accounting major, and no one ever talked about having a personal budget.
Wow. That's amazing.
Wild.
That is, and I think, Tony, the video that we're about to share, is really, shows you the power of focus and being intentional, right? It's, as you said, I mean, some of us on this webinar, make 6 figures, but even if you make 40,000, right? What I want you to understand, being able to direct your money where it goes to is so important. And, what we're going to share is a real life success story. Again, I'm so happy that, Tony, you were the one that found this person and said, man, this is something we need to share, because a lot of times, as you said, money comes in, but if you don't really decide where it's going to go, it like has a mind of its own. Right. And so that's the power. And I want really everyone, as we're about to share this video, please, take some notes. You can type in the chat box if something really resonates with you, but hopefully you have your success leadership gratitude journal. We talked about that last week, and, and just write down some thoughts, because again, this particular video I am so excited about, because this to me it just shows you the power of focus. And this is something that you want to share with your kids, because as Tony said, I mean, Tony has he went to college on an academic scholarship, smart guy. He could have played football at many colleges, but he said, I want to go academics. He then chose accounting. And then for him to say, I wasn't really introduced to personal budgeting, I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? So it just shows me that, programs like this are so important, because what they do is they allow you to, this is really life lessons, right? These are lessons of life that some people have been incorporating. That's why they keep, creating generational wealth. So Tony, I'm going to let you set up the video. Let's get into it, man.
Yeah. So this video, you're going to be looking at, hey, we got Grand Blanc, Michigan, man. That's right. In my neck of woods, right outside of Flint, in that Flint, Lansing area. And so we got some Michiganders in here. We got from Texas. We got St. Louis, New Jersey. Glad to have you all with us tonight. But what we're about to show you is a video. It's, I guess, maybe about 6 minutes long or so, and it's Mr. Earl. And what you're going to love about Mr. Earl is the results that he gets from being consistent, the results he gets for taking advice and acting on it. So we'd like for you guys to just, as you're watching the video, like Marlon said, if something resonates with you, hit us up in the chat box. We're going to have a short discussion about Mr. Earl after the conclusion of the video. So right now, our Chris, the #1 tech guy in the world, is going to roll the video. Parking lot attendant with a whole lot of money.
Not long ago, I met Earl Crawley.
Hey, how you doing?
But everyone here calls him Mr. Earl.
Yeah, we can talk about some finances.
He's worked as an attendant at this parking lot in Baltimore for 44 years.
So you really think it's going to improve the gas?
Funny thing, though, everyone was asking Mr. Earl about money.
Nickel and dime, nickel and dime.
That's right. Is that booth his pulpit where he's preaching the gospel of investing?
Sure is. He makes my day every time I see him.
Oh, come on now. Seriously. Investing?
How you like that gold now?
607.
Earl told me he's never made more than $12 an hour. Never earned more than $20,000 a year.
How you doing?
So how could he know something about corporate profits?
Gonna get
I had to pry.
So Earl, what's your net worth?
$500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah.
From working here.
Working here.
That's amazing.
A last statement.
And there it is in his statements. Over $500,000 net worth on a parking lot wage. Now Mr. Earl had my full attention. how did he do it?
Stop working so hard and let the money work for you.
Earl's first lesson came at age 13. His mother had him working the fruit stalls to help pay the family bills. He got to keep just a few quarters for himself.
The time my mother started taking my money that I earned on Lexington Market, that it wasn't money just to be thrown away. It was there to be used.
Economics aside, Earl had another obstacle to overcome.
Tebow is
He tells me he's dyslexic. Back in the 50s, that meant settling for a life of low-wage manual labor jobs. So Earl figured he'd better sock away what little money he was making. It was just $1 here and $1 there, starting with savings stamps, and that led to savings bonds. At 26, he got married, and by the late 60s, Earl was feeding 3 children on a meager $80 a week.
It was tough, but because we had to sacrifice a lot.
And the budget only got tighter when Earl and Beverly opted to send their kids to Catholic school instead of public school, which was free. Earl took extra jobs to pay the tuition, and you better believe he made every penny count.
Elementary school, I would ask for lunch money, and he would give me $1, and lunch was 85 cents. And he would reply before I walked out the door, "I want my change."
As the years rolled by, Earl kept saving what seemed like meaningless amounts. He started investing $25 each month into a mutual fund and did that consistently for 15 years. By the late 70s, his net worth was $25,000.
Later, as the children got older, he decided to play the stock market. And he bought 1 share, and well, the rest is history.
He bought stock in blue chips like IBM and Coca-Cola that paid dividends, and
instead of taking the dividends and parking it, let it set or let it reinvest itself, and it increased my shares. And the more shares I had, the more dividend I had. Eventually, the more money I have down the road.
so where did this so-called slow learner learn so much about mutual funds and blue chips and dividend reinvestment plans?
We're going to split this year.
It all comes back to that parking lot. And this is my favorite part of Earl's story. You see, his lot is smack dab in the middle of a financial district where he picked the brains of brokers and bankers and lawyers for their financial advice.
What's going on? You got any advice for me today in the markets?
No, I'm just trying to find out something from you.
All right.
Talk to everybody and listen to advice that everybody give me and take it from there.
Earl, why don't we take a look at what you've got in the portfolio now? And see.
Earl had trouble reading, so instead, he listened. He believed in the power of compound interest and stocks for the long haul, which brings us back to the present. Today, Earl's stock portfolio alone is worth more than $500,000. And yes, his house is paid for. And no, he doesn't carry any credit card debt.
He's somebody to emulate, not only as an investor, but as an individual, and how to live your life and make the best of what the Lord gave you.
Now, Earl is paying it forward.
Here comes Brenda.
He's gifting shares from his portfolio to people like Brenda Thomas, who never dreamed they could have enough money to invest.
And that was Coca-Cola. Because you told me to reinvest my dividends, I now have 77 shares. Oh, I'm excited about it. I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for Mr. Earl. And he made it so easy.
If you don't have the money for the
And
whole
not
share,
only is he gifting
this
shares
is
to a
the-
local church, he's starting an investment club there to get everyone investing.
Our goal is every member of the church will own stock, and then they're going to transfer into their family members. So starting here, it's just going to blow up.
It makes me feel good to see someone actually going on and took my advice and went on and did it. That's really a good feeling.
So from his little green shack, Earl is helping others and preaching the gospel of investments. And at the end of my day with Mr. Earl, he told me his good fortune happened not in spite of, but because of his disability.
I always used to say that I must have been the dumbest thing in school or the dumbest thing to couldn't learn, but God gave me the gift to listen and act behind it, and it's one of the best things ever happened to me.
Wow. I mean, come on, man. Come on. I'm pumped up.
Do, Marlon.
Yeah, every time I see that video, I get excited because it just shows me Mr. Earl. Look at what he did. Very meager, income. So I want to hear from our audience. What did you take away? I mean, and then we'll get into you, Tony. I mean, what's your takeaway? And I just got to open it up like, wow, I have no excuse. That for me is what it really showed me. The power of intention, the power. He had his kids go to Catholic school, right? And thank you. Yeah, that was awesome, right? Wow, right? And so again, it just shows you, man, I'm so pumped up. Because here's the thing. Once you realize, wow, somebody like Mr. Earl can do it, that means what can I do? I mean, right? I mean, right, Tony? I mean, come on. So what was your distinction?
Someone says the power of listening. And that was one of my favorite things. Last time we watched this, that's the thing that I took away. Because Mr. Earl said that he was given the gift to be able to listen and then put it into action.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
And then we got Yolanda says, invest and be patient.
Yes.
Start small, buy stock in something. That's the way to go.
That's
and
right.
What I took away tonight, and every time it's something different, right? But what I took away tonight was he said this in the very beginning. He said, stop working so hard for your money and let your money work for you. I'm like, oh man, that's a drop the mic moment right there.
It is. Yeah, I got to take a drink on that one. Thank you. I'm taking a drink on that. Okay. Get your juice, y'all. I got to take a drink. Celebrate. That
let your money work for you. And I love what Letitia is saying. She's saying that's another thing I wrote down. The power of compound interest. And Marlon, you have something to say about that. You always talk about the rule of 72.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Share with us your story about the rule of 72.
Yeah, the rule of 72. Tony is right on. I was working for Hewlett Packard, systems engineer out in California. A buddy of mine on a Monday said, Marlon, there's a seminar, a financial seminar Thursday after work. And I agreed to go on Monday, to go to this Thursday seminar. And, Thursday got here, long week. I was tired, but I made a commitment. And I drove out in California, and it's hour and a half traffic, rush hour traffic. Get there. I told my friend, I'm going to sit in the back. I'm a little tired. I may doze off, right? And so I'm sitting in the back, just because my friend had invited me, Tony. And the facilitator, it was like a classroom. And he wrote up on the board, he said, I'm about to teach you something that will help you become a millionaire. And so he got my attention. I got to be honest with you. Then he said, does anybody know the power of compound interest? Maybe 3 hands went up out of 100 people. Then he said, does anybody know rule of 72? Nobody raised their hand. He said, this rule of 72 will literally transform your life. So listen up. Let me tell you, I was sitting in the back of the room. I got up, got my notepad, and he broke down rule of 72. And just for everybody, this is what I want you to take away. Rule of 72. You divide 72 by the return on your money. Let's say you get a 12% return. 12 goes into 72 how many times? 6 times. That means if you get a 12% annual return, rule of 72, every 6 years, your money will double. So let's just do easy math. You put $1,000 in, 6 years later, that 1,000 turns into 2,000. 6 years after that, 12 years in, that 2,000 turns into 4,000. 6 more years, that 4,000 turns into 4,000 turns into 8,000 at 18 years in. You take it, another 6 years, 24 years, right? That 8,000 turns into 16,000, right? And then at 30 years, right? That I always do 16,000 turns into $32,000. A $1,000 investment 30 years later at 12% return each year will turn into 32,000. When he said that, transformed everything. I felt like
what's powerful about that is we want to make it clear that that's a one-time $1,000. That's not a repetitive putting it in.
Right.
That's a one-time $1,000. They'll take that and they'll add something to it every month.
Come on.
Woo. Man,
Yeah.
that's what's up.
But that, Tony, and that's why the spending plan, which you're going to be sharing tonight, is so important. We wanted to start off with Mr. Earl so you could all see, like, yo, it's possible. And what we just said, now you have a reason. Because once that facilitator told me that, about rule of 72, I had a reason because I said, okay, 12%, boom, even if I get 10%. But as Tony said, even if I start adding to it, making sure I pay myself first, and Tony will talk about that in tonight's lesson because budget has a negative connotation. Right. But what I'm here to say is, if you can say, I really believe, ladies and gentlemen, delayed gratification, make some sacrifices now for the long-term blessings and rewards and opportunities. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah. That's good. And I love the takeaway that was put out here is, but you can buy, what you can do is reinvest your dividends. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people will take those things, they'll take your dividends, they'll spend them. And I think really what we're talking about here is the power of delayed gratification.
Yes.
Power of delayed gratification. And so that is very, very important. It's the power of delayed gratification. Just delaying those things, right? Just saying, hey, listen, I'm going to wait until I have the cash for it. I'm going to wait until I can afford it rather than charging it or rather than, putting myself in debt or something like that to get it. And so that kind of moves us into part of the lesson tonight where we're going to talk about wants versus needs. Wants versus needs. So the question is and we want you to get your response. We want to get your response. Is a computer a need or want? Okay, is a computer a need or want? Everyone tell us your thoughts on that. And the second one, you can answer either one of these two questions or both. The next question is a new car a need or a want?
Woo!
Okay, all right. So is it a need or want? All right. So Andrea Beard said it's a need. Which one? Which is a computer need or want? Man, and I'll tell you, computer, a need. All right. We got car is a want. Okay, that's good. And then we can add another layer to that. Because I mean, honestly, if I can tell my story about my computer, right? My computer story is I had a Mac, man. I had my Mac. I had that same Mac for 4 years, and the battery blew up in it. It was no good. I went 2 years without replacing that computer.
Okay.
Because I had an iPad. And I was like, man, we're doing this live stream and all this. I need to get a computer. But guess what I did? Guess what I did, Marlon?
What'd you do?
I didn't go to the Apple store. I didn't go to the Apple store and buy a new computer.
Okay,
I got a used one. And man, this baby's running good. I look good on it, right? So this computer is running good, right? And so, sometimes we have to go to the next level of question.
Right.
Like a computer in this case was a need, but a new computer would have been a want versus a need. And we know technology turns over fast and all that. And I get all that. Same thing with a car. Is the need transportation or is the need the car?
Yeah. And what I really think we're getting to it, because I saw a couple of people say, it depends on the situation. Yes, it does. However, what you just heard Tony say, like, I got an iPhone, right? And, my kids, I think I have an iPhone 6. I don't know what number they're on now. I know at least 11. And my kids are like, oh, your phone is outdated. Oh my God, you have an old phone. I'm like, it does the same thing. Well, do I really need 3 cameras? I mean, come on now. I mean, seriously, it does what I need it to do. So again, what you just said, Tony, okay, you could have gone out and bought the latest and greatest, but sometimes we got to work smarter and not harder. And that's what we're striving to do, because what's your rule, Tony? You and, at least I know y'all, really are very intentional. But when you want to buy something, do you have any kind of rule or any kind of a waiting period, before, or maybe there's a certain amount that you say, okay, we have to sleep on it for 24 hours? I mean,
our rule is I wait for her to say yes.
Okay. Right. That's why you've been married 28 years, right?
Here's the thing. I mean, for us too, we make all our decisions together. I mean, and that's the way we do it as a couple. As a couple, we don't go out and spend any money without the other knowing it's okay. We'll even be and some people it may seem kind of micro, but we'll even text each other at the stores like, hey, I'm going to pick this up or that type of thing. But I heard a lot of good things, and you can do a lot of good things. Is one is if you want something, take a picture of it and put the picture on your refrigerator. And if you still want it a week later, then go ahead and do it. Because so often what happens is that we buy out of emotion. And so we have these emotional buys.
Yes.
And that could be a lot of different things, right? So I've seen this and I've done this and experienced it myself. It's like if I was having like a really rough day at work, right? And I, we have rough days at work.
Right.
To make myself feel better, I'd stop on my way home and buy something for the kids.
Cool.
Justify it, right? I justify it by saying, well, it wasn't for me, it was for them. But honestly, it was just to make myself feel better.
Sure.
And so we have emotional buying. And so we have to take the emotion out of our purchasing.
Yeah. And, I think, again, that emotional buy, Tony, why are you buying, right? And, I love what Nisi said, right? But something is new to you, even if it's used, right?
Right.
So, remember, I think last week I said, a lot of times we're borrowing money that we don't have to buy things we really don't need to impress people who really don't care. I mean, just let that sink in. I mean, really, I look back and you mentioned at the beginning of the show, I've had hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That have gone through my hands, right? I'm talking about income into my account, and hundreds of thousands of dollars, like everybody on this webinar, hundreds of thousands of dollars have come to you. And the question is, where is it now? Right. And so that's why tonight's show is so important. Mr. Earl really set it off, saying, it's not about how much you earn. It's really about how much at the end of the day you have.
It's not about what you get, it's about what you keep, right?
Yeah, come on, yeah.
And I have another twist on it. It's not about just what you keep, but it's about how you keep it and how do you distribute it? How do you ultimately, is it distributed to your family? Because he said something else that I hadn't heard before. He talked about that buying the stock, and they talked about it in the church, and that they were going to be transferring wealth.
Yes.
We're going to be transferring wealth. So many things that we buy with our money really have no value in it.
Sure.
No value in it. And so having something that grows in value that you can transfer. Now, one of the things that's interesting, and Nisi said this, we have a certain amount that we don't spend over that amount without a discussion.
Right.
And it's interesting, Marlon. I don't know if you was on the webinar I was on earlier today, but they said the average couple argues twice a week about money.
Yep.
Twice a week about money. Yep. And I thought that was just really alarming.
Yeah, very much so. And and they really talked about the fact that the credit card debt, right? And how, a lot of people use it as a what was the word they said? Using your credit card almost like, monopoly money, right? And so, so no, that's why tonight is so important, Tony. And I think one of the things we just want to say is this, listen, I get it. The Joneses, we talked about that last week, keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know who the Joneses are.
Who is the Joneses? Right.
And, but the thing is that, what we're striving to do is help all of us become more conscious. Right. And that's why, Mr. Earl, and you will receive the video of Mr. Earl, in our follow-up email, so that you can share with your family, your friends, you can rewatch it, right? Because again, repetition is the mother of skill. And so, that's what tonight is about, really saying to you and to us, look, I can't change the past. Like somebody said, hey, I just got on here, but it looks like I'm right on time, right? And I love that because yes, you are right on time, right? And that's the beautiful thing about this is that, she said, I'm late, but sounds like I'm right on time. That was from Nisi. And you are, because you're hearing this message, right? I mean, this was extended to all the BCG, veterans, but you families, you couples are the ones that say, yo, I'm in it to win it. And I'm going to be all the way through 8 weeks, because again, repetition is the key. And, and I want to applaud all of you who sent in your homework assignment. Okay. We will be following up with you, right? Complimentary, just to, again, we're the real money coach. And so I want to really say to you that I want to say thank you time is so precious, and I know there's a lot of things. You see, I'm in my kitchen, and I was cooking food. I was multitasking, and life is busy. But again, there's nothing better than having that peace of mind. And that's what I promise you. At the end of these 8 weeks, boy, just do the homework. Participate, and I promise you, your financial situation is going to be much better than when you first started.
Your consciousness will be raised.
No doubt.
And here's the thing. I know, Nisi, someone said that they did not receive the workbook. If you have not received it, perhaps you can email us at info@therealmoneycoach. We'll make sure that you get it. If you have not received the workbook, just email us, so we'll make sure that everyone gets it. And I was just thinking here, Marlon, I got this. That's a Starbucks, right?
Sure.
That's a Starbucks. But guess what? It's a reusable cup, and it's got donut hole coffee in it, right? So I look like I'm drinking Starbucks.
Right.
I'm just drinking a regular cup of coffee, man.
Right.
That's
it,
so
man. That's it.
That's a part of it.
Hey man, look, I know you're gonna get into study, but when you said about, because that Starbucks, I gotta just jump in, and then please let's get into it, man. Listen, y'all, how many of y'all know what I'm talking about? People that kind of fake the funk, live beyond their means or pretend like they're doing better than they, really are. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up, I used to live in California, right? And, was working, Silicon Valley. Then I moved down to Santa Monica, California. And, back then, I'll never forget the car phones, that kind of came out, right? And people had phones in their car, right? It's before cell phones, right? And so I'll never forget, I was with a friend, and we were driving, and another dude that my friend knew, pulled up to the red light next to us, right? And she said, my, yeah, I'm going back, right? Some of y'all don't know what I'm talking about, but my folks, we know, right? So check this out. So I'm at a red light. My buddy, right? He's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. One of his buddies pulls up to the red light with us, right? And his buddy's all loud, right, on his phone, right, and got the car antenna up, right? And he's like, "Yeah, what's up? Yeah, I did it." I mean, talking loud, right? Everybody's looking, right? I mean, he's flossing, right? We didn't have a car phone, right? But and then he drives off, right? My boy told me, "Yo, dude, he's not even on the phone. That phone has been disconnected." He's just making it, man. And so, Tony, you said something about, I'd rather have $5,000 in a brown bag than have $100 in a $5,000 Gucci bag, right?
Right.
So, what we're saying is this spending plan, right? This budget, it's important because you're directing your money where to go before it goes, right? Before it leaves. Right. So Tony, let's get into it, man. And thank you.
Real quick, man, we just want to go over the definition of what a need is, just for people. It's in your books. But a need is something you must have for survival. And so I think understanding that is something you can't live without. Food, shelter, clothing are example of needs. Then we get to wants. Wants is something that you like to have, but something not absolutely necessary. Like maybe vacation, and we talked about Xbox and a certain brand and all those types of things. Now, I have another question for our audience tonight. If you could tell me what percentage of lottery winners waste all their earnings within a few years? And then the other question is, what about NBA and NFL players? What percentage of them waste all their money within a couple years of winning the money, or in an athlete's situation within a couple years of retiring? What do you think? Anyone? Looking in the chat box. Let's see. Anyone? Okay. Somebody said 70%.
Wow.
All right. Somebody said 90%. Love it. 50% for lottery, 40% for pro athletes. That's good, Michael. Nisi said 95%. Almost all of them. All of them. Right? All of them. Here's the answer, people. The answer is 70% of all lottery winners waste their money within a couple years. The
Hmm.
money's gone. They win the lottery because what has happened is that they've gotten the money, but the habits haven't changed.
Right.
The mindset hasn't changed. And so if you don't change your mindset, it's just like water, man. It's just going to run right through. Now, with the NBA and the NFL, the percentage actually is 60%. 60% of all athletes end up within a couple years of retiring broke.
Wow.
60%. And, you know, you may think in some groups it may be higher than that because they're living a lifestyle. You know, you got to think about it. If you're a rookie and you get into the league, you can't have the lifestyle of LeBron, right?
Right.
Or Steph. You got to live according to your means.
That's right.
And I think that's very important is that we remember to live within our means.
But you know, Tony, I got to say something, man. You know, the lottery, the athletes, that's real. But I don't want to just put a spotlight on them. You know, meaning I think we have to. You know, it's great to see that, but also how many of us? I mean, I raise my hand, right? How many of us are also living beyond our means, right?
Yeah.
And so I really want us to really crystallize. It's easy to point the finger. But, we're showing that because, again, financial illiteracy, people just not knowing about money and how it works and how to become wealthy and how to transfer. I mean, that to me is what the key is for us, each one of us to really, be real,
right.
and take off the
I'm
mask.
glad you said that, Marlon, because it's not an indictment on them.
Right.
But it's just to emphasize that how much money you make doesn't really make the difference.
Right.
If you haven't changed the mindset.
I mean, and Mr. Earl, like to your point, right, Tony?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
somebody who, relatively speaking, right, not a whole lot of income, but yet, right, he applied these principles and has $500,000 net worth. Home is paid for, put his kids through private school. So, let's not.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to just get to that mindset. Now, what we want to do is we want to shift into how to do a spending plan, how to make up a spending plan and a budget and those type of things. And what we're going to do that is we're going to introduce another video. This video is a little bit longer than most of we show. It's about 7 minutes. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to unpack the 6 steps to setting up your spending plan or budget.
And stick to it. Nowadays, I know it is not easy keeping your hard-earned cash in your wallet, even when you're trying to be responsible, right? I mean, we've all got a variety of need-to-have expenses like a mortgage, car repairs, and college tuition to pay for. I mean, never mind the like-to-have expenses, that you want to treat yourself to once in a while. Like a new pair of cool high tops or those fancy designer jeans. So I'm sure your question is, how do you keep all those things from chipping away at your bank account? Well, no matter who you are or what you're spending your money on, you could probably use a budget, especially when the average household spends 80% of its annual income on a range of necessary expenditures, which includes almost 60% on housing, food, gas, and insurance alone. Now, that's a lot to pay for, right? I mean, so then how can you ensure you're being as smart with your money as you can be? Well, by creating a budget. It's the tool you need to help you stretch your paycheck as far as it'll go. And now all it takes is just a little bit of discipline, planning, and most importantly, prioritization. While creating a budget may seem overwhelming at first, I know, believe me, the time you spend putting it together, that's going to certainly be worth it when the process of paying your monthly bills becomes a little less stressful. So where do you start? Well, setting a goal is always a good place to begin. It gives you something to shoot for. And then, of course, making a plan, that's going to set you in motion. So here's how to do that in 6 easy steps. Step 1, know your income. Seems simple enough, right? But knowing how much you can spend each month starts with knowing how much you take home. That means you can't build your budget based on your salary. I mean, it should be based on your net income. So get out some pay stubs and see what you're clearing after taxes, insurance, 401k contributions, and other stuff like that. Step 2, determine your basic expenses. Figure out what your fixed expenses are every month. Now these are the things that don't fluctuate or change dramatically through the year, like like rent or mortgage payments, good old car payments and insurance, student loans. This is also a good time to make sure you have some kind of safety net to help pay for these expenses in case of an emergency. Like, let's say you need a new water heater or your car needs a new transmission. There you go. So if you have a safety net established, great. If not, there happens to be a video on this site called Easy Ways to Save on Everyday Expenses. And that can help you find some extra money to put towards that savings. Step 3, determine expenses that vary each month. These are the things that change based on usage, like your phone and other utilities, as well as your grocery bill. That could change. You could also add up all those flexible expenses like clothes, those jeans, restaurant meals, entertainment costs. These are the costs that you have control over. Step 4, determine what's really important. When it comes to creating a budget that works, you have to take a really hard look at what you feel is truly necessary. As much as you'd like to think you can't live without the latest gadget, this type of expense should go into the like to have category. So if if you want to find the fluff in your budget, start digging into your variable expenses and rank what's most important to you. Do you really need unlimited texting on your cell phone? If not, get rid of it. Are you watching all 437 channels of cable? No? Downgrade to basic. For more simple tips that can help you save, check out that video I mentioned, Easy Ways to Save on Everyday Expenses. Because if you follow some of the tips there, you could save hundreds of dollars each year. Yes, hundreds. Step 5, follow your spending and review monthly. You want to give your budget a fighting chance, right? So just keep an eye on your wallet and especially those credit cards to make sure you're spending within limits throughout the month. It's easy to forget, right? And even easier for the small things to start adding up. So keep on it. Step 6, keep track. Find a way that works for you to keep track of your expenses. That can mean the old pen and paper, spreadsheet, or one of those new fancy, fun budgeting apps. A lot of banks have these as part of their online banking. They're easy to find and use, so be sure to look for them. Then you just balance your budget. Keep your income information current and track your actual expenses monthly. After a few months, you're going to start to see patterns and figure out where you can streamline and make adjustments. Now, if you don't want to go it alone, if you're like a little company, there are some sites all over the internet to help you analyze what you have coming in and what you're spending. And if you're the pen and paper type like myself, or even the computer spreadsheet type, check the links at the end of the video in the What to Do Now section, where you can access a handy budget worksheet. It's great. All in all, making a budget is a process that will take some time and effort. But put these steps into place, and what you'll get in return is well worth it. Trust me. You might relieve some anxiety over your bills and feel better about yourself and where your income is going. Not so bad, right? Put them into everyday practice, and before long, you could have more money for the things you want, like high tops, in addition to the things you need.
Powerful.
Hey, Marlon, you like those high tops, huh? You like those high tops?
Yeah. I like the old couple and like high tops. Yeah.
Before we review the video, and we wanted to just give everyone just some practical things they can do. But I was thinking about it before we showed the video, Marlon. You and I are very fond of one of the same books, Richest Man in Babylon.
Yes.
And that book by Clausen, Richard Clausen, I believe, is a great book that just talks about how to live off of less income. So you got 100% of your income, you save 10%, right? You invest 10%, and you use 10% to pay down your debt. And so now you live off of the 70. And I think that's very important. The other thing I wanted to mention as we get into the video is inside the workbook, folks, there's an example of different expense charts and also different examples of budgets, one for someone in college, a standard budget. Then we have some others there. So there are some tools inside of your book that will help you. But we want to just go back and review real quick the 6 steps that were in the video It talks about setting up a spending plan. The first one is to know your income. That seems so basic, but you got to know your income. How can you have a spending plan, a budget, or whatever you want to call it, if you don't know how much you have coming in? And you know, I want to challenge everyone. I want to give this challenge to everyone. If you received a tax return last year, if you received an income tax return, I want you to take that return and I want you to divide it by 12. That will tell you how much of your money every month that the IRS kept all year long without paying you any interest that you could have had into your spending plan, that you could have had into your debt reduction plan. And I know it's been a mentality. It's like, oh man, I got a $7,000 tax return. Well, guess what? If you got a $6,000 tax return, that means $500 a month that they kept of your money that you could have had, that you could have been using for your own expenses, your own budget plan. And so know your income. Look for ways to increase your income. We believe in entrepreneurship. We believe everybody should have a little side hustle. And so know your income. The second is to know your fixed expenses. It talked about your fixed expenses, those things that do not change from month to month. Your house note, your car note. I would say essential things that are going to pretty much be the same every week or every month. And so here you go. So the essential fixed expenses, I would even say food, right? So if it's something you can't do without, then that should be something that you prioritize as a fixed expense. Now, then I want to say this, then you know your variable expenses, those things that fluctuate or that you have some control over. And as we are going into this whole thing with the coronavirus and everyone, a lot of people were working from home or not working, or the hours were reduced. The variable expenses are those things that you can eliminate or those things that you can reduce out of your budget. So you don't have to go to Starbucks. You don't have to do some of the other things. They are variable expenses. They fluctuate. They're things that you actually can just eliminate even for a short time period. Okay. And then number 4 was to prioritize your expenses. Which things are most important? So within those categories of fixed or the category of need to have things that were mandatory, prioritize those. Which ones are most important? And do the same with your variable expenses. And I really think the number 5 and number 6, we can't lose those two. And that is to follow your spending plan and to keep track. You actually can't follow it if you're not keeping track. So again, it comes back to tracking your expenses. It comes back to having your plan and not just have it in your head, right? Have it written down, have a written plan, have a calendar if you need it to write things down when things are due. So you can look at a calendar and look at that calendar and be able to see at a glance which bills are due. And the other tip I want to give people is have multiple accounts. And, you know, my wife and I, we have multiple accounts, multiple checking accounts. Some are for the weekly things. First of all, we have an account that all our money goes into. Then we have an account for weekly bills. And then we have an account for the monthly things. And then account for the things that are annual. And so we can be putting money in those things in those accounts as needed. But having multiple accounts really does help you. No one says that you can only have one bank account or one checking account. Now, you can't be going around bouncing checks because that'll get you, that'll ruin your spending plan. But what you need to do is have multiple accounts with things. I believe that everything that comes into your home has an assignment. You give every dollar that you make an assignment. And so now have an assignment for every dollar that comes in. So Marlon, what do you think?
Well, Nisi, I think really hit it. You know, she's like, yes, thank you. Folks thought we were crazy for having different accounts. So You have just confirmed she is not crazy. She's not alone.
Not crazy at all.
Yeah, Tawana said, yes, definitely multiple accounts. I love what Shelton said earlier. He said, we should develop a love affair with budgeting. It should be as vital as the love we have for another person.
I don't want that to breeze by. I don't want that to breeze by, Marlon, because what happens is that we put everything on our calendar, right? Okay, I might put my workouts on my calendar. I'd certainly put my appointments on my calendar. This is on my calendar for every Tuesday at 8 p.m. But how many of you have a calendar appointment with your money? For your money. Make an appointment with your money. And when he said, fall in love with your money, and it's just like, man, you have to have a love affair with your money and make an appointment with it.
Right, right. And that just goes back to what Tony's saying. I mean, we're talking about quadrant 2 living, and Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about, doing things that are important but not urgent. And that's really what Tony's saying. And I hope that you're feeling his sincerity when he says, schedule an appointment with your money. If it's weekly or daily, budgeting, we should be tracking our money. And what that does is it allows you to, again, be conscious. See, our whole premise is that, we're bright. All of us on this webinar are bright. We're smart, right? But the thing is that sometimes we can just go become sleepwalking, right? Unconscious, right? So I love what Tony's saying. And Tony, what are some of the things that we should do when we do have that scheduled time with our money?
Well, again, we're talking to couples. I think as a couple, you got to get together. You got to know your priorities. You got to be willing to have your rules of engagement, right? Knowing, some people said there's certain spending amounts that they can't do. I know couples who have separate bank accounts, like he has his play account and his wife has her account.
Right.
And, for Lisa and I, that's never worked. It makes it a little bit harder, a little bit challenging to surprise her, right? Because we both use the same account, but it just works for us.
Sure.
And so what you have to find out is what works for you. Yeah. And then you have to sit down and say, at least monthly. I mean, at least monthly.
Sure.
And say, where are we in our spending plan?
Well,
I think last month, or were we under?
Yeah.
We have to do evaluation.
And I hope that what people are taking away is, again, just having the time. You decide what works for you and your significant other, or if you're single, right? Again, you scheduling time, and maybe it's even with an accountability partner. Right. Because, I think we do more when we have that accountability. And, I love what, Audra said, budgeting is an action, real talk. Right. And and Nisi said every Wednesday. Right. Tawana said every 2 weeks, we sit down and we chart and, and so on and so forth. And so that to me is, I hope that that's the takeaway for all of us. It's an action, right? Budgeting is action. It's work.
It's a financial date. I love that.
That's good.
Date.
Yeah,
I like that. I that. My wife and I, we've been doing date night for I don't know, at least 20 years or longer. Right. And we have our money meeting, but we might change that to financial date. I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Lewis, all right.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, I think that that's really the key, family. And I think that, hopefully these 2 videos have really sparked, number 1, it's possible. And number 2, you can do it. I mean, that really is what we're really striving, for tonight, is just helping you understand the importance of having a spending plan or a budget, right? Something that at least, again, you're giving your money direction. And by putting it on paper, it just, like Tony said, sometimes when it's up here, it can be a little cloudy, but tracking, it allows you now to say, okay, boom, this is where it's going, right? And again, you are in control. I think that's the biggest thing, right? And one of the things about COVID-19, let's be honest, when the restaurants closed and whatnot, a lot of us, had to eat more at home. So already, we know we can do it. We can do it. All right. My kids may not love it, but you know, they ain't dying, they ain't starving, right? And so my point is that
they're not DoorDash.
right. No, we haven't even done that. No, we haven't.
Right.
You know, because the point is that I want us to really understand. We've saved a lot of money, right? Because even going to Chick-fil-A, right? That's really the only fast food that we eat. Every time I take them, it's $20 every time, right? Because they're no longer the little kids, right? The Happy Meal or whatever they call it, the Chick-fil-A. But my point is that, in a way, COVID-19 has the great pause. One of my friends, that's what she calls it. And I love it because it allows you to be more, we're no longer sleepwalking, right? Things have paused. And again, this is the time now to, put some new practices, create some new habits. And, and Tony and many other people here have been talking about, financial date night, right? And I just want to say thank you, because again, to me, this is a collective, and I'm going to keep on saying this every single webinar. I'm asking each one of you to take what you've learned tonight and share it with at least 3 people, 3 loved ones. Just say, hey, how are you doing? Or do you have a budget? Or are you, spending plan? And when you get this video from, when you see the recording, feel free to forward it to them, right? It will have the video links. It will have this video as well. You can even share your workbook with them, because again, this is a crisis. I'm a motivational speaker. Inspiration is my thing, but I also like to keep it very real. And I'm telling you, I promise you, I can feel it. There's a epidemic when it comes to money management. I mean, people are just spending frivolously and not knowing where it went. And COVID-19, if it's one thing that's really showed us, is how vulnerable we are as a nation, right? Over 30 million people filed for unemployment. I get it. But my question to you is, how many of us, right? How many of us, have a 6-month emergency fund, right? How many of us, know what our budget is, right? And so my point is that, hopefully COVID-19 is a wake-up call. That's my prayer, is that we all go within and we say, you know what, I have room for growth. To me, that's what it's about. So Tony, I know we're going to wrap up, and this has been really great, and thank you, Nisi. You are so right. Spinning with nothing to show for it. I mean, it's real. The great pause. That's an excellent perspective, right? And so, yeah, both videos were excellent. So you're so right.
So I want to challenge everyone. If you don't have a emergency fund, if you don't have a savings account, and I understand how hard that is, we want to challenge you for the next 6 weeks to save $1,000.
Okay.
Save an additional $1,000 over the next 6 weeks.
Ooh, I like that.
And that can be tough, because you get to $999, the car breaks down,
right?
But you can't give up. And so I want to challenge everyone to save at least $1,000 over the next 6 weeks.
If you're up for that challenge, I need some commitment, right? So say yes or no. Are you up for the $1,000 challenge? This is off script. Tony just, he's just feeling.
I just dropped that on you, didn't I?
Yeah, he just dropped it on. So, but I think it's phenomenal, because this gives us an action item, right? So just write yes or no. Are you up for the $1,000 challenge? Some of you may say, I don't need it. Okay, but maybe for you it's $5,000. I don't know, but $1,000, right? So yes, thank you, Somerville said yes. Who else is up for this challenge? And again, this is for you. You're not going to, you're not donating it to us or gifting it to us. No, this is for you. And and you might even want to.
You can give yours to me. I mean, that's
right. But you know what I like for you to do, Tony. You're talking about you can have a new account. I want to encourage people, maybe create, an account, another account, right? At the bank or the credit union, wherever you bank, just a different account, and maybe it's your account, but maybe you title it, freedom. Or wealth, legacy wealth. I don't know, but yeah, that's where your $1,000 can go into, right? And you'll see it grow, right? Because this is a great challenge.
Okay. Now, one of the questions out there was, are we talking per person? We're gonna let you guys decide that. If it could be a couple or it could be per person. So this is the couples. This is the Black couples getaway. So maybe it should be couples, but maybe you challenge yourself. Maybe the challenge for you is like, hey, $1,000 is not much for us together, but maybe 2,000. So we're gonna let that be up to you guys. We're not gonna be dogmatic about it. Just the challenge is to save $1,000 by the time we end this seminar series.
Yeah, okay? and I would say, to Tony's point, at least 1,000. Okay, what would be a stretch, right? So if you say, you know what, let's really go, 1,000 a week. Again, I don't know what your situation is, but stretch yourself because we got 6 more weeks. And again, I would say create a new account this week. Create a new account, and that's where this financial freedom, where your money is going, right? At least 1,000. And, again, you don't have to post it right here, but with you or your significant other or both of you, y'all decide. Or if an individual, boom, you just make a commitment. Because I promise you, at the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to say, wow, I did it. And for some of you, it's going to be, wow, I did more. I did twice as much as what I thought I was able to do.
And that's the interesting thing about when you develop a spending plan, you'll find more discretionary money than you thought you had. And so that's where you start. To get to your 1,000, you start with developing your discretionary or your spending plan. You'll find you have more control, better organization. You'll have discretionary money, and then that will lead to other investment opportunities. And I love what the King said here. Sandra King said, we have 3 months. We're going to push it to 6 months emergency fund. Love it. That's a great goal to have. And I want to end with this, man. Is this simple statement that people with no money skills often make poor financial choices. And it's regardless of how much money they make. And so our whole purpose is to increase your financial skills, your money skills. And what we're doing this 1 hour a week is just the beginning. Really, people, this is really setting seed. We're sowing seed into your life. And you are going to have to seek it out after this. We're just giving you a start. And we're really excited about it. We love it. We love what we're doing. I love that the Mitchells, we have several people, Marlon, who said they're up for the challenge. And so we're going to have the challenge. Tell us how it's going. You can email us at the info@The Real Money Coach, or you can put in your chat box next week. Hey, we started, we got here. So we want to celebrate with you. We want to celebrate with you as you're going out and you're making this challenge happen. So
powerful. Well, thank you so much. And as we wrap up, just want to say, tonight's been another phenomenal experience. And again, time is our most precious commodity. And I just love the fact that, everyone's like, yo, let's roll. And so, Tawana, yes, definitely looking to continue building on my financial skills. Thank you. And Nisi, this is a true statement. Sherman Hemsley was broke when he started Amen, because he spent all his money from the Jeffersons. I never even knew that. Wow. And again, it's not about what you have coming in. I think it's about what you have left over, right? As far as your legacy. So with that, thank you so much. And with that, I'd just like to share with you, remember, what you do today will dictate where you'll be tomorrow. And with the budgeting, look at it as your freedom. I love what, someone shared about, really having a love affair with your wealth, right? And just understanding that, we have an opportunity to break some generational curses. All right. And, I'm just going to keep it real because, unfortunately, so many people have been conditioned to be consumers and really get their self-esteem from outside validation. And really, when you think about it, it's not about what you wear. It's not about what you drive. It's about who you are on the inside, because there's greatness within you. And so tonight, we are excited. I'm so happy that my colleague Tony, had this download about, hey, let's have a challenge, right? Because that's an action. And again, I say, create a new account, right? You can call it your freedom account or whatever you want to call it, something that has significance, because you're going to get excited as you're putting money into that account. You're paying yourself first. One of the books that Tony talked about, Richest Man in Babylon, he says, first thing before you, pay your bills, you pay yourself first. But before that, you tithe, you give away 10%. And then you invest 10%, and then you save 10%. And then the 70% you have left over, that's where you spend your money. But again, it's a mindset. So I want to say thank you for coming. We'll be with you next week, same time, as well as the same Facebook Live, The Real Money Coach. And you'll see, financial psychology last week was phenomenal. Budgeting tonight. Next week, we talk about credit profile. Right? How to increase your credit. What is credit? How do they determine your credit score? Then we're going to go into loans and debt. Oh, that's going to be phenomenal. And then, risk management and insurance. And then many of you in your pre-assessment asked about the retirement. You really want to look at what do I do? What do I do? I want to create, where the number one fear of most retirees is outliving their money. So we're going to give you some strategies. And then investment in real estate. And then last, my favorite of them all is entrepreneurship, because I believe everyone should have their own business, even if it's part-time. So thank you so much. We look forward to getting your information, your completed assignment. Remember, info@The Real Money Coach. So go ahead, go through the workbook, complete, and let us, share some follow-up with you. So, again, we're in this together. On behalf of Tony Jackson, Chris Jackson, Marlon Smith, we are The Real Money Coach. We say thank you. And remember, there's greatness within you. Stay blessed.